The ship was dying. Tiho could feel it in his bones as alarms screamed through the corridors and red lights flashed in every direction. The cargo vessel Hanel's Grace had been a good ship for 3 years, carrying supplies between human colonies in the outer sectors. Now it was falling apart around him. "Yuna," he shouted into his communicator, "where are you?" Static answered him for a long moment. Then her voice came through, broken but alive. "Engine room. Everything is gone, Tiho. We lost main power. We lost backup power. We are going down." Through the cockpit window, Tiho could see a planet growing larger with terrifying speed. It was beautiful in a strange way, with purple clouds and silver oceans that reflected the light of two suns. He had never seen this world before. It was not on any map he knew. "Get to the escape pods," he said. "Now." The escape pods are destroyed. The explosion took them out. Tiho closed his eyes for just a moment. He had been a military medic before he became a cargo pilot. He had seen death many times. He had held soldiers as they took their last breaths. He had learned to stay calm when everything around him was chaos. That training saved him now. "Then get to the cargo bay," he said. "Strap yourself to something solid. We are going to crash and we are going to survive." He did not wait for her answer. He ran through the shaking corridors, grabbing walls as the ship twisted and groaned. Smoke filled the air. He could hear metal tearing somewhere behind him. The ship was breaking into pieces as it fell through the atmosphere. He found Yuna in the cargo bay, already strapping herself between two large containers. She was young, only 28 years old, with short black hair and oil stains on her face from working on the engines. She looked scared, but she was not crying. She was not giving up. "Over here," she said, pointing to a space next to her. Tiho strapped himself in just as the ship hit the atmosphere at full speed. The noise was like nothing he had ever heard. It was like 1,000 thunderstorms happening at once. The heat came next, turning the walls red and orange. He could feel his skin burning even through the cargo containers. Then came the impact. The world became darkness and pain and the sound of destruction. Tiho felt himself thrown against his straps. Something sharp cut across his arm, slicing deep into the flesh. He screamed, but he could not hear his own voice over the chaos. When he opened his eyes again, everything was silent. He was alive. That was the first thing he understood. He was alive and he was in pain, but he was breathing. Sunlight came through a massive hole in the side of the ship. Strange purple plants were visible outside, along with a sky that was too blue, too bright. "Yuna," he said, his voice was weak. "I am here." She was already moving, cutting herself free from the straps. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead, but she was standing. She was alive. Tiho looked down at his arm. The wound was bad, very bad. A piece of metal had torn through his forearm, cutting through skin and muscle. He could see the white of bone through the blood. The pain was intense, like fire spreading through his entire body. "Let me help you," Yuna said, coming to his side. "I can walk," he said. "We need to get out of the ship. It might explode." They helped each other through the wreckage. The ship was completely destroyed. They found the bodies of their 3 crewmates in the forward section: Captain Park, Navigator Junho, and Communications Officer Minji, all dead. Tiho closed their eyes and said a quiet prayer. There was no time for more. Outside, the alien world was beautiful and strange. The plants were purple and silver, growing in twisted shapes that reached toward the twin suns. The air smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with something metallic. In the distance, mountains rose like broken teeth against the sky. "Where are we?" Yuna asked. "I do not know. This planet is not in our database." Tiho sat down on a rock and began treating his wound. He tore strips from his shirt and wrapped them tightly around his arm. The bleeding slowed but did not stop. He would need proper medical supplies soon, or infection would set in. "Tiho," Yuna said suddenly, her voice was very quiet, "we are not alone." He looked up and felt his heart stop. They were surrounded. The creatures that stood around them were unlike anything Tiho had ever seen. They were tall, much taller than humans, with bodies that seemed to be made of crystal. Their skin shimmered like glass, reflecting the sunlight in patterns of blue and purple and green. They had 4 arms each, and their faces were smooth, with large eyes that had many small parts like the eyes of insects. There were at least 20 of them, and they all held long spears pointed at the 2 humans. Tiho stood slowly, raising his hands to show he had no weapons. Blood dripped from his bandaged arm onto the purple grass below. "We mean no harm," he said, knowing they probably could not understand him. "Our ship crashed. We are survivors." The creatures did not respond. They stared at him with those strange, beautiful eyes. Then one of them stepped forward. It was taller than the others, with darker crystals forming patterns on its chest. It looked at Tiho's arm, at the blood soaking through the bandages. Something changed in its expression. Tiho could not read alien faces, but he thought he saw confusion, maybe fear. The creature spoke to the others in a language that sounded like music, like bells ringing in harmony. The other creatures responded, their voices creating a strange chorus. They were all looking at Tiho's arm now. "What is wrong with them?" Yuna whispered. "I do not know." The lead creature pointed its spear at Tiho's wound and spoke again. This time, its voice was sharp, demanding. "I think it wants to see my arm," Tiho said. Slowly, carefully, he unwrapped the bandage. The wound was ugly, still bleeding with torn flesh and visible bone. It hurt terribly, but he had felt worse pain in his life. He had survived worse wounds. The creatures went silent. Then, as one, they stepped back. Their spears lowered slightly. The lead creature made a sound that Tiho thought might be a gasp. It spoke rapidly to the others, its musical voice now filled with something that sounded like alarm. More creatures arrived. Then more. Soon there were over 50 of them, all staring at Tiho like he was some kind of monster. Some of them looked at Yuna with the same expression, examining the cut on her forehead with wide, fearful eyes. "They are scared of us," Yuna said. "But why? We are the ones who crashed. We are the ones who are hurt." Tiho did not have an answer. He watched as the lead creature approached again, this time more carefully. It reached out with one of its 4 hands, stopping just before touching his wounded arm. Its hand was shaking. "You," it said. The word was rough, badly pronounced, but it was definitely a human word. "You, not die." Tiho blinked. "What?" "Blood," the creature said, pointing at his arm. "Flesh open, bones show, you not die, how you not die?" Tiho looked at his wound, then back at the creature. This will heal. It hurts, but I will be fine in a few weeks." The creature translated this to the others. The reaction was immediate. Some of them dropped their spears entirely. Others made sounds that might have been prayers or curses. A few simply ran away, disappearing into the purple forest. The lead creature raised its spear again, but this time it was not pointing at Tiho. It was holding it across its chest, like a barrier between them. "You come," it said. "You come with us, Queen must see, Queen must know." Tiho and Yuna were bound with ropes made of some kind of plant fiber. The creatures were careful not to touch them directly, as if they were afraid that human skin might burn them. As they were led through the alien forest, Tiho leaned close to Yuna. "I do not understand," he said quietly. "Why are they so afraid of my wound?" "Maybe their species does not heal like we do," she said. "Maybe when they get hurt they just die." Tiho thought about this. He thought about the crystal-like bodies of the creatures, how they shimmered and reflected light. He thought about how fragile crystal was, how it cracked and shattered when it was damaged. If these creatures were truly made of something like crystal, then maybe they had never seen healing before. Maybe they had never seen blood and bone and flesh that could put itself back together. Maybe to them, he was something impossible. The forest gave way to open land, and in the distance, Tiho saw their destination. A city made of glass and light, with towers that reached toward the sky like frozen flames. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. And somewhere in that city, a queen was waiting to see the creature that would not die. The city was even more beautiful up close. The buildings were made of living crystal that grew from the ground like trees. They pulsed with soft light, changing colors as the twin suns moved across the sky. The streets were smooth and clean, made of the same crystal material. Everything shone and sparkled. The creatures that lived here called themselves the Velith. Tiho learned this from the few words they spoke in broken human language. They had learned some human words from somewhere, which meant they had met humans before. This thought worried him. Thousands of Velith lined the streets as Tiho and Yuna were led through the city. They stared at the two humans with expressions that mixed fear and wonder. Some of them pointed at Tiho's bandaged arm and whispered to each other. Others backed away as the humans passed, pressing themselves against the crystal walls. "They really are afraid of us," Yuna said quietly. "Look at them, they will not even come close." "Keep walking," Tiho replied. "Do not make any sudden moves, we do not want to scare them more." The palace stood at the center of the city. It was the largest structure Tiho had ever seen, a mountain of crystal that rose so high its top was hidden in the clouds. It hummed with energy, vibrating at a frequency that Tiho could feel in his teeth. The sound was almost like music. They were taken inside through massive doors that opened without being touched. The interior was even more impressive than the outside. Halls stretched in every direction, filled with light that came from the walls themselves. Velith guards stood at every corner, their spears ready, their crystalline bodies reflecting the light in dazzling patterns. The lead creature, the one who had captured them, walked beside Tiho now. Its name was Hyun, which it had spoken with difficulty, as if the sound was hard for its mouth to make. It was a commander Tiho had learned, a leader of soldiers. "Where are you taking us?" Tiho asked. "Holding place," Hyun answered. "Others there, others like you." Tiho felt hope rise in his chest. Other humans. Hyun did not answer. It simply kept walking. They descended into the lower levels of the palace. The light here was dimmer, the halls narrower. Finally, they reached a room with walls made of thick crystal that was almost completely clear. Inside, Tiho could see figures, human figures. The door opened and Tiho and Yuna were pushed inside. The door closed behind them, sealing with a soft hum. "Well," said a voice from the shadows, "more guests for the Queen's collection." A man stepped forward. He was older than Tiho, maybe 45, with gray in his black hair and deep lines on his face. His clothes were torn and dirty, but he stood straight, like a soldier, like a leader. "I am Captain Minyu," the man said, "and you are either very unlucky or very lucky to be here." Behind him, 3 other humans emerged, 2 men and 1 woman, all wearing the remains of what looked like diplomatic uniforms. They looked tired and thin, but they were alive. "I am Tiho," Tiho said. "This is Yuna. Our cargo ship crashed on this planet." "Crashed?" One of the other men laughed bitterly. "We did not crash. We were pulled out of hyperspace by some kind of weapon. The Velith captured us 6 months ago." "6 months," Yuna said. "You have been here for 6 months." Minyu nodded slowly. "We were a diplomatic mission. First contact with a newly discovered species. The Velith intercepted our ship before we could even say hello. They have been studying us ever since." Tiho looked around the cell. It was clean and comfortable, with beds and a table and even some kind of bathroom facility in the corner. Not a prison exactly, more like a cage for valuable animals. "Studying us?" he asked. "Why?" Minyu sat down on one of the beds and rubbed his face with his hands. "Because they do not understand us, because we terrify them." He looked up at Tiho. "Let me ask you something. You are hurt, yes. Your arm, what happened to it?" "Metal from the crash cut me. It is bad, but it will heal." "And that is exactly the problem." Minyu pointed at the crystal walls around them. The Velith are made of something like living crystal, beautiful, yes, but fragile. When they crack, they die. When they break, they shatter. They have no blood. They have no flesh. They have no way to repair themselves. Tiho understood now, the fear in the eyes of the Velith, the way they had reacted to his wound. They do not heal, he said. They cannot heal, Minyu corrected. Any injury, no matter how small, is a death sentence for them. A crack in their shell spreads until they fall apart. They evolved on a planet with no predators, no violence, no danger. They never needed to develop the ability to survive damage. Yuna sat down heavily on a bed. So when they see us bleeding with our wounds open, they see monsters, Minyu said. They see creatures that can survive what should kill them. They see the impossible. One of the other diplomats, a woman named Jia, came forward. They have old stories, prophecies, about beings called the Undying, creatures of soft flesh that cannot be destroyed. Some Velith think we are gods, others think we are demons. What do they want from us? Tiho asked. They want to understand, Minyu said. They want to know how we survive. Their scientists have studied us, taken samples of our blood, our skin. They cannot believe what they find. Our bodies repair themselves. We grow new tissue. We form scars. To them, this is like magic. Tiho looked down at his arm. The bleeding had stopped now, and the wound was beginning to close at the edges. His body was doing what human bodies had done for millions of years, healing, surviving. It was so natural to him that he had never thought about it. But to the Velith, it was a miracle. There is something else, Minyu said. His voice was lower now, more serious. The Velith are dying, as a species, I mean. Their fragility limits everything they do. They cannot fight wars because every battle would end their civilization. They cannot explore dangerous places. They cannot take risks. Their population has been falling for centuries. They need us, Yuna said. They need our biology. They need to understand how flesh heals. They hope that somehow they can learn from us, find a way to save themselves. The door to their cell hummed and opened. A figure entered, different from the guards. This one was taller, more elegant, with patterns of gold running through its crystalline body. It moved with careful grace, and when it spoke, its voice was clearer, more practiced in human language. I am Nari, the figure said. I am High Priest of the Velith. I serve the Queen and the ancient wisdom of our people. Tiho stood facing the priest. Why are we here? What do you want from us? Nari moved closer, studying Tiho with its multifaceted eyes. It looked at his arm, at the healing wound. Something like wonder crossed its face. You are hurt, it said. Yes. Your flesh is torn, your bone is visible, you have lost blood. Yes. And yet you stand, you speak, you live. Yes. Nari was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke again, and its voice trembled. Our ancient texts speak of this. They speak of beings who cannot be broken, who survive what should destroy them. We called them the Undying. We are not gods, Tiho said. We are just humans, our bodies heal. It is natural for us. Natural, Nari repeated the word like it was something sacred. For us, there is no healing. There is only wholeness or destruction. When I was young, my sister cracked her arm in an accident, just a small crack. She was dead within 3 days. Yuna made a small sound of sympathy. Nari looked at her with something that might have been gratitude. Your wound, Nari said to Tiho. It will close, the flesh will come back together. Yes, in a few weeks it will be just a scar. A scar. A mark, a reminder of the wound, but the wound itself will be healed, gone. Nari backed away slowly, its 4 hands pressed together in what might have been a prayer. The Undying, it whispered. The prophecy is true. It turned and left the cell quickly, the door sealed behind it. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Minyu laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Welcome to the Velith Empire, he said, where the simple act of healing makes you either a god or a monster. That night, Yuna cleaned Tiho's wound properly with supplies they found in the cell. He sat still as she worked, wincing only when she touched the deepest parts. "Does it hurt?" she asked. "Yes, but it is getting better. It will heal." Yuna finished wrapping the bandage and sat back. "I keep thinking about what they said, that a small crack killed one of them, just a small crack." "They are fragile," Tiho said. "Fragile and beautiful and very, very afraid." "Afraid of us. Afraid of what we represent." Tiho looked at the crystal walls of their cell. "We are everything they cannot be. We get hurt and we survive. We bleed and we heal. To them, that is either wonderful or terrifying." Through the crystal walls, he could see Velith guards watching them. Their eyes reflected the light like mirrors, and in those eyes, Tiho could see fear. Deep, ancient fear of creatures that should not exist. Tomorrow, he knew, things would change. The Queen would want to see them. The Queen would want to see the wound that healed itself. And whatever happened next would decide the future of two species. The morning came with strange light. The twin suns of the Velith world rose at different times, painting the sky in layers of orange and purple. Through the crystal walls of their cell, Tiho watched the colors change and thought about what lay ahead. His arm felt better. The wound was still there, still painful, but the edges were closing. New pink skin was growing over the damaged flesh. His body was doing its work just as it had done 1,000 times before, healing, repairing, surviving. Commander Hyan came for him at midday. "Queen calls," Hyan said. "You come alone." Minyu stepped forward. "I am the captain of our diplomatic mission. I should speak for our people." "Queen calls this one," Hyan said, pointing at Tiho. "The one with the wound that does not kill. Queen wants to see." Tiho looked at Yuna, then at Minyu. "It is all right, I will go." "Be careful," Yuna said. "We do not know what they will do." "I do not think they will hurt me," Tiho said. "They are too afraid to get close." He followed Hyan through the palace corridors. Other guards joined them, walking ahead and behind, keeping their distance. Tiho noticed that none of them would look at him directly. They glanced at his arm and then looked away, as if the sight caused them pain. The throne room was vast. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above. Crystal pillars rose like frozen waterfalls, catching the light and throwing rainbows across the floor. Hundreds of Velith filled the room, standing in ordered rows. Nobles, priests, soldiers, scholars. They all watched in silence as Tiho was led down the central path. At the end of the room, on a throne made of black crystal that absorbed light rather than reflecting it, sat the queen. She was ancient. Tiho could see it in the way her crystalline body had changed over time, becoming darker and more complex. Patterns of silver and gold ran through her shell, forming designs that looked like writing in a language he could not read. Her eyes were larger than the others, deeper, filled with intelligence that had accumulated over centuries. "So," the queen said, her voice was different from the others, clearer, almost perfect human speech. "The undying has come." Tiho stopped at the base of the throne and bowed his head slightly. "I am Tiho. I am human. I am not undying. I am just durable." "Durable," the queen tasted the word. "An interesting way to describe what you are." She stood from her throne and descended the steps slowly. The crowd parted before her, giving her space. "My people tell me that you survived a crash that destroyed your ship. They tell me that metal cut through your flesh and bone. They tell me that you walked and spoke and lived." "Yes. Show me." Tiho unwrapped the bandage from his arm. The wound was still ugly, still red and raw, but it was visibly healing now. The torn flesh was coming together. New tissue was forming. The blood had dried into dark scabs that would eventually fall away. The queen stopped a few steps away from him. She looked at the wound for a long time. Then she looked at Tiho's face. "Does it hurt?" "Yes." "How much?" "Enough to make me want to scream sometimes, but I can bear it. I have felt worse." A murmur went through the crowd. The queen raised a hand and silence returned instantly. "Worse," she said. "You have felt worse pain than this." "I was a soldier once, a medic. I helped wounded people on battlefields. I was wounded myself many times, burns, cuts, a bullet once in my shoulder." Tiho touched his shoulder without thinking. "The bullet is still in there, actually, too dangerous to remove. My body grew around it." The queen's eyes widened. "Your body grew around metal inside you?" "Yes." She took a step back. For a moment, Tiho thought he saw fear in her ancient eyes, but it was more than fear. It was something like awe. "Among my people," the queen said, "a single crack means death. A small chip in our shells spreads until we crumble. We have no blood, no soft tissue, no ability to repair what is broken. We are beautiful but brittle, perfect but fragile." She gestured at the assembled crowd. "Every Velith you see here lives in constant fear of the smallest injury. We do not fight, we do not explore dangerous places, we do not take risks, because for us, risk means death." "I understand," Tiho said. "No, you do not, you cannot." The queen moved closer now, coming within arm's reach. "Your species survives damage that would destroy us 1,000 times over. You bleed and heal, you break and mend, you carry scars like decorations, proof of survival." She reached out with one of her 4 hands, stopping just before touching his wounded arm. "To us, you are impossible. You are a miracle. You are terror made flesh." Behind her, the guards shifted nervously. Commander Hyun took a step forward, but the queen waved him back. "I have a question for you, Tiho of the humans," she said. "What do your people call this? This ability to survive what should kill you?" Tiho thought for a moment. "We do not have a special name for it. It is just life. All living things on our world can heal to some degree. It is natural, normal." "Normal," the queen repeated. "For you, miracles are normal." She turned to face her court. "High Priest Nari has shown me the ancient texts, the prophecies of the undying. For thousands of years we believed these were stories, myths, dreams of our ancestors." She pointed at Tiho. "Now the prophecy stands before us, bleeding and healing, soft flesh that cannot be broken." Nari stepped forward from the crowd. "The texts speak of the undying as either saviors or destroyers. They will change our empire forever, for good or ill." "Which are you?" the queen asked Tiho. "Savior or destroyer?" "Neither," Tiho said. "I am just a man who crashed on your planet. I want nothing from you except a way to go home." The queen studied him for a long moment. "I do not believe that," she said finally. "Not because I think you are lying, but because fate does not bring the undying to our world by accident. There is a purpose here, a reason." She returned to her throne and sat down. "You will remain in the palace as my guests, not prisoners but guests. You will be given food and comfort and freedom to move within these walls. In return, you will teach us about your kind, about how you survive, about how you heal." "And if we refuse?" The queen smiled. It was a strange expression on her crystalline face. "Then you will remain anyway, and we will learn by observation. But I think you will not refuse. I think you are curious about us too." She was right. Tiho was curious. Despite everything, he wanted to understand these fragile, beautiful beings. He wanted to know how they had built an empire while being so vulnerable. He wanted to know why they feared death so much when death seemed so close to them always. "There is one more thing," the queen said. "The wound on your arm, the one that is healing. I want to see it every day. I want to watch the process. I want to understand how flesh puts itself back together." "It is not a fast process," Tiho said. "It takes time." "We have time. We have nothing but time." The queen leaned forward on her throne. "Show me how the impossible becomes real. Show me how the undying survive." Tiho looked down at his arm. The wound that had terrified an entire empire. The simple, natural process of healing that was, to these beings, the greatest mystery in the universe. "All right," he said, "I will show you." He was escorted back to the cell, but this time the door was left unlocked. True to the Queen's word, they were guests now. Guards still watched them, but from a distance. Food was brought, strange fruits and plants that tasted like nothing on Earth. The other humans gathered around as Tiho told them what had happened. "She wants to learn from us," Minyu said. "That could be good or bad." "What choice do we have?" Yuna asked. "We are trapped on their planet, our ships are destroyed, we cannot leave." "No," Tiho agreed. "But maybe we can build something here, an understanding between our species. If they want to learn from us, maybe we can learn from them too." That night, Tiho stood at the crystal window and watched the two moons rise over the alien city. His arm throbbed with the familiar pain of healing. On Earth, this would mean nothing, just another wound becoming another scar. But here, on this world of fragile crystal beings, his ability to heal was something else entirely. It was power. It was mystery. It was hope and fear combined. The Queen wanted to understand how humans survived. Tiho was not sure he could explain it in a way that would make sense to her. How do you explain breathing to someone who has never had lungs? How do you explain healing to someone who has never known anything but wholeness or destruction? But he would try, because somewhere in the space between their differences, there might be something valuable, something that could help both species, or something that could destroy them both. Only time would tell. Days turned into weeks. The humans settled into a strange routine in the Crystal Palace. They were given comfortable rooms, good food, and freedom to walk in certain areas of the palace. Guards followed them everywhere, but the guards kept their distance, watching with eyes full of fear and curiosity. The Velith scientists came every day. They brought instruments that hummed with strange energy and asked endless questions. How fast does blood flow? How long does it take for skin to regrow? What happens inside a wound when it heals? The humans answered as best they could, and the scientists recorded everything with a mixture of fascination and horror. Tiho's wound became the center of intense study. Every morning, Velith scholars gathered to watch as the bandage was removed. They measured the wound. They took samples of the healing tissue. They photographed every stage of the process. To them, watching flesh knit itself back together was like watching a god perform miracles. "The new tissue is connecting," one scientist reported to the Queen during her daily observation. "The damaged cells are being replaced. The wound is closing from the inside out." The Queen watched in silence. She had come every day since the first meeting, sitting in her floating chair while Tiho showed her his healing arm. She never touched him, never got too close, but her eyes followed every change in the wound. "How does it know?" she asked one day. Tiho looked at her. "How does what know?" "Your body, how does it know how to rebuild itself? How does it know what shape to make, what structure to follow?" Tiho thought about this. It was not something he had ever really considered. Our bodies have instructions inside every cell, like a blueprint. When we are damaged, our cells read the blueprint and follow it to rebuild. "Blueprints inside every cell," the Queen repeated. "Even the smallest part of you knows how to make the whole." "Yes, I suppose that is one way to think about it." The Queen was quiet for a long time. "We do not have this," she said finally. "Our bodies do not carry blueprints. We are grown whole in our birth crystals, and we remain whole until we break. There is no rebuilding because our cells do not know how." "Maybe that could be changed," Yuna said. She had been listening from across the room. "If you could study how our healing works, maybe you could find a way to apply it to your own biology." "We have been trying," the Queen said. "For the 6 months since we captured the first humans, our scientists have been working on this problem. But our biology is too different. What works in flesh does not work in crystal." The weeks continued. Tiho's wound healed completely, leaving only a pink scar on his forearm. The scientists gathered to see this final result, this proof that damage could become memory, that destruction could become decoration. Commander Hyun touched the scar for the first time. running his finger over the raised tissue with trembling hands. "This is where the bone showed," he said. "Yes. And now it is just this mark. Yes, a scar, a reminder that I survived." Hyun stepped back. His face was hard to read, but Teho thought he saw something new there. Not just fear, something else, something like respect. "Among my people," Hyun said, "there are no survivors, only the whole and the dead. No one has ever carried a mark like this, a proof of pain endured." "Is that why you became a soldier?" Teho asked, "even though any wound means death?" Hyun was silent for a moment. Someone must protect the queen. Someone must be willing to die so that others may live whole. It is an honor but also a curse. Every day I know that the smallest accident could end me. That sounds exhausting. It is, but I know nothing else. Hyun looked at Teho's scar again. You carry your history on your body. Every wound you have ever survived is written on your skin. I think I envy that in a strange way, to have proof that you have lived through danger. Word of the humans spread through the Velith Empire. Some heard the stories and called the humans holy beings sent to save their species. Others called them demons who would bring destruction. The empire, which had been united under the queen for centuries, began to split along ideological lines. Yuna made friends with a young Velith scholar named D. He was smaller than the others, with pale blue crystals that almost looked white in certain lights. He was not afraid to get close to the humans, which made him unusual among his kind. "I do not believe in the prophecy," D told her one evening. "I think you are just another species, different from us but not magical." "Thank you," Yuna said. "That is actually nice to hear. Everyone else looks at us like we are either gods or monsters." "To be fair, what you can do is remarkable. I watched Teho's wound heal. It was the most amazing thing I have ever seen, but amazing is not the same as divine." They walked through the palace gardens, where crystal flowers grew in impossible colors. Yuna had learned to move slowly around the Velith, to make no sudden motions that might startle them. "D," she said, "the queen told us that your species is dying. Is that true?" D stopped walking. For a moment he was very still. "Yes, it is true. Our population has been falling for 3,000 years. Our fragility limits everything we do. We cannot expand to new worlds because the journey is too dangerous. We cannot develop new technologies because experiments often cause injuries. We cannot even have large families because each birth risks the mother's life." "How many Velith are there?" "Across all our worlds, perhaps 2 billion. There used to be 50 billion at the height of our empire." Yuna felt a deep sadness. "I am sorry." "Do not be sorry, it is simply our nature. We are beautiful but breakable, perfect but temporary." D turned to face her. "But when I look at you, when I see how your body repairs itself, I wonder if there might be hope, not through magic or prophecy, through science, through understanding." The political situation grew more unstable. A faction of Velith, led by a noble named Shin, began speaking openly against the humans. They believed that the Undying were a threat to everything the Velith had built. They wanted the humans killed or sent away before they could cause harm. "The prophecy warns that the Undying will change us forever," Shin declared at a public gathering. "Change is not always good. Change can mean destruction. These creatures heal because they are meant for violence. They survive wounds because they are warriors. If we let them stay, they will teach us to fight, and fighting will destroy us." Not everyone agreed. Many Velith saw the humans as a source of hope. If humans could heal, maybe there was a way to give that gift to the Velith. Maybe the fragile crystal beings could finally become something more, something durable. The queen kept her own counsel. She continued her daily visits to observe the humans. She asked questions about human history, human wars, human survival. She seemed to be gathering information, preparing for something. One day she came alone, without her usual guards. She found Teho in his room, reading a Velith book that Dee had translated for him. "I have been thinking about scars," she said. Tiho closed the book. "What about them?" "They are not just marks. They are stories. Every scar tells of a moment when death was possible but did not come. Every scar is a victory against destruction." "I never thought of it that way, but yes, I suppose that is true." The queen moved closer than she ever had before. She was almost within touching distance. "I have ruled my people for 400 years. In that time I have never been injured, not once, because any injury would mean the end of my reign, the end of me." "That must be a heavy burden." "It is. Every moment I am aware of my fragility. Every movement is calculated to avoid risk. I have never run, never jumped, never done anything that might cause me to fall." She looked at Tiho's scarred arm. "But you run and fall and fight and get hurt, and you keep going, you keep living." "Yes." "I think," the queen said slowly, "that we have been looking at this the wrong way. We have focused on your healing as the miracle, but maybe the real miracle is your willingness to be hurt in the first place. Your willingness to risk damage because you know you can survive it. Risk is part of being human, and fear of risk has become our entire existence." The queen turned away. "We must learn from you, not just how your bodies heal, but how your spirits endure, how you find courage when death is always possible." She left without another word, but Tiho understood that something had changed. The queen was no longer just curious about human biology. She was curious about something deeper, something that might help her people find a new way to exist. That night the extremists made their move. Shin and his followers attacked the palace, determined to end the threat of the Undying once and for all. And everything changed. The attack came at midnight. Tiho woke to the sound of crystal shattering and voices screaming in the musical language of the Velith. Red emergency lights pulsed through the walls of the palace, turning everything the color of blood. "What is happening?" Yuna was already on her feet, her eyes wide with alarm. "An attack!" Tiho moved to the door. Outside, Velith guards were running through the corridors. Some carried weapons. Others were already broken, their bodies scattered across the floor in glittering fragments. Captain Minyu and the other humans gathered quickly. "Shin's extremists," Minyu said. "They must have finally decided to act. They want to kill us. They want to kill anyone who supports the humans, including the queen." The sounds of battle grew closer. Tiho had heard these sounds before on Earth in wars he wished he could forget. The crash of weapons, the cries of the wounded, the terrible silence that followed each death. "We cannot just stay here," Yuna said. "We should find the queen," Tiho said. "She treated us well. If she falls, the extremists will take over and we will be next." They moved through the palace, staying close to the walls, avoiding the worst of the fighting. Velith bodies lay everywhere, some whole but motionless, others shattered into countless pieces. It was a horror that Tiho had never seen before. When humans died in war, they left behind corpses. When Velith died, they left behind nothing but broken glass. Commander Hyun found them in a corridor near the throne room. He was carrying a weapon that hummed with energy, and his crystalline body had new cracks running through it. He was injured, maybe dying, but he was still standing. "The humans," he said. "You must run. The attackers want you dead." "Where is the queen?" Tiho asked. "In her chambers. I sent guards to protect her, but Shin has many followers. I do not know if she will survive." Tiho made a decision without thinking about it. "Take me to her." "What? No, you are soft flesh. You will be killed." "Soft flesh heals. Crystal does not. Take me to her now." Hyun stared at him for a long moment, then he nodded. "Follow me." They ran through the palace. Twice they encountered groups of extremists, and twice Hyun fought through them while Tiho helped where he could. A blade caught Tiho's shoulder, slicing through skin and muscle. He kept running. Blood soaked his shirt, but he kept running. The queen's chambers were at the top of the highest tower. The door had been broken down. Inside, Tiho saw a scene of destruction. Dead guards everywhere, their bodies shattered. And in the center of the room, Queen Sora, standing alone against a group of attackers led by Shin himself. "Your reign is over," Shin was saying. "You have let the monsters into our home. You have embraced the undying instead of destroying them. For this, you must fall." "I am your queen," Sora replied. Her voice was steady, but Tiho could see fear in her eyes. "I have ruled for 400 years. I will not be killed by a frightened fool." Shin raised his weapon. "Then die with dignity." Tiho moved without thinking. He threw himself between the queen and the attack. The weapon struck him in the chest, cutting deep, but it did not reach the queen. Tiho fell to his knees, blood pouring from the wound. The room went silent. Shin stared at Tiho with something like disbelief. You stepped in front of it on purpose." "Yes." Tiho pressed his hand against his chest. The wound was bad but not fatal, not for a human. He forced himself to stand. "And I am still alive." The extremists backed away. They had heard the stories, but seeing it was different. Seeing a creature take a killing blow and continue to stand was something they could not process. "He is bleeding," one of them whispered. "His insides are coming out, and he is still alive." Tiho took a step forward, then another. Blood dripped from his chest and pooled on the crystal floor. "You think you can destroy us? We have survived worse than you. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. We have survived everything our universe has thrown at us." He took another step and the extremists retreated further. "We are not gods. We are not demons. We are just human, and humans do not die easily." Shin's nerve broke. He turned and ran, and his followers ran with him. In moments, the room was empty except for the queen, Tiho, and Hyun. Tiho fell to his knees again. The pain was catching up to him now. His vision was going dark at the edges. "You saved me," the queen said. Her voice was strange, different. "You took a wound that would have killed any Velith instantly. You took it to save me. You were kind to us, it seemed, right?" The queen knelt beside him. For the first time she touched him, her cool crystal hands pressing against his wound. "You are still bleeding. What do we do? How do we help you?" "Medical supplies in my quarters. Yuna knows how to use them." The queen sent Hyun to fetch them. While they waited, she stayed beside Tiho, her hands still pressed against his chest. "I do not understand," she said. "This wound should kill you. Why are you not dead?" "Because humans are hard to kill." Tiho tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. "We evolved on a dangerous world. We had to survive predators and diseases and each other. Our bodies learned to endure." "Endure," the queen repeated. Such a simple word for such an impossible thing. Yuna arrived with the medical supplies. She worked quickly, cleaning the wound, applying sealants and bandages. Tiho lost consciousness somewhere in the middle, but when he woke up hours later, he was still alive. Badly hurt, but alive. The queen was still there, sitting beside his bed. "You stayed," he said. "I wanted to see if you would live. I told you, humans do not die easily." The queen smiled. It was a real smile this time, not the political expression she usually wore. "Shin has been captured. His followers have surrendered. The attack has failed." "Good." But something else happened during the fight, something I did not expect. The queen touched her own chest, where her crystalline shell curved over what would be a heart in a human. "When Shin attacked me, his weapon struck my thorax. It created a crack." Tiho's eyes widened. "A crack, but that means—" "It means I should be dead or dying." The queen moved her hand, showing him the damage. There was indeed a crack in her shell, a dark line running through the crystal, but it was not spreading. It was sealed, filled with something white and solid. "Your engineer, Yuna. She used a compound from your medical supplies, a sealant designed for human wounds. She applied it to my crack before it could spread. And it worked." "It worked. The crack has stopped growing. The sealant is holding." The queen touched the white line on her chest with wonder. I am damaged, but I am not dying. For the first time in our history, a Velith has survived an injury. Tiho stared at her. That is incredible. It is a beginning. The queen stood. We cannot heal like you do, but perhaps we can learn to survive damage. Perhaps your medicine can help us become something more than we are. In the days that followed, everything changed. The extremists were defeated, and the empire rallied around their queen, who had survived an assassination attempt. The story spread quickly. The queen was cracked but alive, saved by human medicine. It was proof that the undying had come not to destroy but to help. Scientists worked day and night, studying the human sealant, trying to adapt it for Velith biology. It was slow work, but it was progress. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Velith had hope. Tiho healed as he always did. Another scar for his collection, another story written on his body. On the day the alliance between humans and Velith was formally announced, the queen invited Tiho to stand beside her. They stood on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City, with thousands of Velith gathered below. Today we begin a new era, the queen announced. An era where the Velith and the humans walk together. We are different species, shaped by different worlds. They are soft where we are hard. They heal where we break. But perhaps together we can become something greater than either of us alone. The crowd cheered, their voices creating harmonies that echoed off the crystal walls. Later, alone on the balcony, the queen turned to Tiho. You know you can go home now, she said. We will provide a ship. You have earned your freedom. Tiho thought about Earth, about the wars he had left behind, about the scars he carried from that life. Maybe later, he said. Right now, I think there is more work to do here. The queen nodded. Then she did something unexpected. She traced the scar on Tiho's arm, the one that had started everything. This mark, she said, what do your people call it? A scar, a reminder of a wound that healed. A reminder that you lived through something that tried to kill you. Yes. The queen touched the sealed crack on her own chest, her first scar, her proof of survival. Then I am honored to bear one, she said. I am honored to be marked by life as your people are. Tiho smiled. Welcome to the club. They stood together as the twin suns set over the Crystal City. Two species, so different from each other, finding common ground in the simple miracle of survival. The Velith had spent their entire existence afraid of damage. Now they were learning that damage was not the end. It was just another challenge to overcome. Yuna and the other humans would stay too. There was too much work to do, too much to learn and teach. The alliance was just the beginning. In time, human medicine might give the Velith the ability to survive injuries. In time, Velith technology might help humans build ships that could cross the galaxy in days instead of years. But for now, it was enough to stand in the fatting light and know that something important had begun. Something that started with a crash, a wound, and a group of aliens who could not believe that a creature could bleed and still live. The Undying had come to the Velith Empire, and they had brought with them the most precious gift of all. The gift of hope. The gift of survival. The gift of scars.